Good morning and welcome to part 5 of the one and only Ivan. To recap part 4, Mac had brought in the baby elephant named Stella. She is helping with getting more visitors at the mall slash circus zoo. And then we just left off part 4 where Ruby, as she's kind of getting to know Ivan and Ivan's getting to know Ruby, is going to be telling us a story, or telling Ivan a story, of humans that may surprise you. So here we go. And Bob's also there. Bob pricks his ears up and joins me by the window. I do enjoy a good digging story, he says. Ruby goes on. Well, it was a big hole full of water near a village, Ruby says. I don't know why the humans made it. Sometimes you just need to dig a big hole, Bob reflects. We were looking for food, Ruby says, my family and I, but I wandered off and got lost and went too close to the village. Ruby's eyes looks at me wide. I was so scared when I fell. Of course you were, I said. I would have been scared too. Me too, Bob admits, and I like holes. That hole is huge. Ruby pokes her trunk between the bars and makes a circle in the air. And guess what? She doesn't wait for an answer. The water was all the way up to my neck. I was sure I was going to die. I shudder. What happened then, I ask. I'll tell you what happened, Bob says darkly. They captured her and put her in a box and shipped her off where she is now. Just like they did with Stella. He pauses to scratch his ear. Humans. Rats have bigger hearts. Roaches have kinder souls. Flies have... No, Bob, Ruby interrupts. You're wrong. These humans helped me. When they saw that I was trapped, they grabbed ropes and they made loops around my neck and my tummy. The whole entire village helped. Even the little kids and grandmas and grandpas. They all pulled and pulled. Ruby stops. Her lashes are wet, and I know she must be remembering all the terrible feelings from that day. And they saved me, she finishes with a whisper. Bob blinks. They saved you? Yeah, when I was finally out, everyone cheered, Ruby says. And the children fed me fruit, and the humans led me back to my family. It took them a whole day to find them. No way, Bob says, still doubtful. It's true, every word. Of course it's true, I say. I've heard rescue stories like that before. It's Stella's voice. She sounds weary. Slowly, she makes her way over to Ruby. Humans can surprise you sometimes. Bob still looks unconvinced. But Ruby's here now, he points. If humans are so swell, who did that to her? I send Bob a grumpy look. Sometimes isn't no one to shut his mouth. Ruby swallows and I'm afraid she's going to cry. But when she speaks, her voice is strong. Well, bad humans killed my family, and bad humans sent me here. But that day in the hole, it was humans who saved me. Ruby leans on her head on Stella's shoulder. Those humans were good. It doesn't make any sense, says Bob. I just don't understand them. I never will. You're not alone, I say, and I turn my gaze back to the racing gray clouds. Stella's foot hurts too much for her to do any tricks for the 2 o'clock show. Instead, Mac pulls her limping into the ring while she tracks a circle in the sawdust. Ruby clings to her like a shadow. Ruby's eyes go wide when Snickers jumps on Stella's back and leaps onto her head. At the 4 o'clock show, Stella can only go as far as the entrance to the ring. Ruby refuses to leave her side. At the 7 o'clock show, Stella just stays in her domain. When Mac and Ruby comes for Ruby, Stella whispers something in her ear. Ruby looks at her pleadingly, but after a moment, she follows Mac to the ring. Ruby stands alone. The bright lights make her blink. She flaps her ears and she makes her tiny trumpet sound. The humans stop eating their popcorn. They coo and they clap. Ruby is a hit. I don't know whether to be happy or to be sad. When Julia arrives after the show, she brings 3 thick books, 1 pencil, and something she calls a magic marker. Here, Ivan, she says, and she slides 2 magic markers on a piece of paper into my domain. I like the sundown colors, red and purple, but I don't feel like coloring. I'm worried about Stella. All evening she's been quiet, and she hasn't eaten a bit of her dinner. Julia follows my gaze. Where is Stella, anyway? She asks and goes to Stella's gate. Ruby extends her trunk and Julia pats it. Hey, baby, she says. Is Stella all right? Stella is lying in a pile of dirty hay. Her breath is ragged. Dad? Julia calls. Can you come here a minute? George sets aside his mop. Do you think she's okay, Dad? Look at the way she's breathing. Should we call Mac? I think something's really wrong. He must know about her. George rubs his chin. He always knows. But a vet costs money, Jules. Please, call him, Dad. George gazes at Stella. He puts his hands on his hips and sighs, and then he calls Mac. I can't hear all of his words, but I can see George's lips tighten into a grim line. Gorilla expressions and human expressions are a lot alike. Mac says the vet is coming in the morning if Stella's not any better, he tells Julia. He says he's not going to let her die on him, not after all the money he's put into her. George strokes Julia's hair. She'll be all right. She's a tough old girl. Julia sits by Stella's domain until it's time to go home. She doesn't do her homework. She doesn't even draw. My domain gleams with moonlight when I awake to the sound of Stella's call. Ivan, Stella says in a hoarse whisper. Ivan. I'm here, Stella. I sit up abruptly, and Bob topples off my stomach. I run to the window. I can see Ruby next to Stella, sleeping soundly. Ivan, I want you to promise me something, Stella says. Yeah, sure, anything, I say. I've never asked for a promise before because promises are forever, and forever is an unusually long time, especially when you're in a cage. Domain, I correct her. Sure, she agrees. I straighten to my full height. I promise, Stella, I say, like a voice of my father's. But you haven't heard what I'm asking yet, she says, and closes her eyes for a moment. I promise anyways. Stella doesn't say anything for a long time. Never mind, she finally says. I don't know what I was thinking. The pain is making me addled. Ruby stirs. Her trunk moves, as if she's reaching for something that isn't there. When I say the words, they surprise me. You want me to take care of Ruby, don't you? Stella nods. A small gesture that makes her wince. If she could have a life that's different from mine. She needs a safe place, Ivan. Not here, I say. It'd be easier to promise to stop eating, to stop breathing, to stop being a gorilla. I promise, Stella, I say. I promise it on my word as a silverback. Before Mac, before Bob, even before Ruby, I know that Stella is gone. I know it the way that summer is over and the winter is on its way. I just know. Stella once teased me that elephants are superior because they feel more joy and more grief than apes. Your gorilla hearts are made of ice, Ivan, she said, her eyes glittering. Ours are made of fire. Right now, I'd give all the yogurt raisins in the world for a heart made of ice. Bob heard a rat, a reliable sort, that they tossed Stella's body into a garbage truck. It took 5 men and a forklift. All day I try to comfort Ruby, but what the heck can I say? That Stella had a good, happy life? That she lived as she was meant to live? That she died with those who loved her most nearby? At least that was true. Julia cries all evening while her father sweeps and mops and dusts and cleans the toilet. When George sees Max, he runs to him. I can only hear him a few words. Vet, should have, wrong. Max shrugs, his shoulders drop, and he leaves without a word. When George wipes the fingerprints off my glass, his cheeks are wet. He doesn't meet my eyes. When all the humans have left, I send Bob to check on Ruby. Hey, how is she? I ask when he returns. Well, she was shivering, Bob says. I tried to cover her with hay. I told her not to worry, because you were going to save her. I glare at him. You told her I was going to save her? You promised Stella, Bob lowers his head. I wanted to make the kid feel better. I shouldn't have made that promise, Bob. I just wanted... I point to Stella's domain for a moment. I wanted to make Stella happy, I guess, but I can't save Ruby. I can't even save myself. I flop onto my back. The cement is always cold, but tonight it hurts. Bob leaps onto my belly. Hey, you're the one and only Ivan, he says. You're a mighty silverback. He licks my chin. Say it, Bob commands. I look away. Ivan, say it. I don't answer. So Bob licks my nose until I can't stand it any longer. Okay, I'm the one and only Ivan, I mutter. You don't forget it, he says. When I gaze at the food court skylight, the moon still loved is shrouded in clouds. All night, Ruby moans and sniffles. I pace in my domain. I don't want to fall asleep in case she needs something. Ivan, Bob says gently, can you get some sleep? For your sake and mine? Bob, I can't sleep. I hear stirring then. Ivan? Ruby calls. I rush to my window. Ruby, are you alright? I miss Aunt Stella, Ruby sobs. And I miss my mom and my sisters and my aunts and my cousins too. I know, I say, because it's all I can think of. Ruby sniffles. I can't sleep. Do you know of any stories? The way Aunt Stella did? Not really, I admit. Stories were Stella's specialty. Tell me a story about when you were little, Ruby pleads. She puts her trunk between the bars. Please, Ivan? I scratch the back of my head. I don't remember things, Ruby, I admit. It's true, Bob says, trying to be helpful. Ivan has a terrible memory. He's the opposite of an elephant. Ruby lets out a long, shivery breath. Oh well, that's all right. Night, Ivan. Night, Bob. I listen to Ruby's soft sobs for a long, horrible minute. Then I hear myself just saying, all right, once upon a time there was a gorilla named Ivan. And slowly and deliberately, I tried to remember. So kind of back in like part 2 when Stella was still alive and she was talking with Ivan about how he chooses not to remember his past, that he probably remembers it, but maybe some bad things happen in Ivan's past that he kind of like blacks it out and says he doesn't remember. But it looks like for Ruby's sake, he's going to try to remember kind of like when he was a younger gorilla in the wild, and he's actually going to tell his own story that's going to involve humans and going to involve him on how he got to the Big Top Mall. So we're going to end there before his story, cliffhanger, and then if you go to Schoology, go ahead and fill out part 5 and then look on our schedule for anything else we have to complete for the day, and we'll see you for part 6.